In a quiet Ethiopian village nestled between rolling hills, a kind-hearted woman named Mibret lived with her husband, Tesfaye, and his young son, Dawit. Mibret, in her early 30s, had warm brown skin, deep almond eyes, and long, braided hair adorned with tiny beads. She was tall and slender, always dressed in a traditional white Habesha chemise embroidered with golden threads. Though she loved Dawit as her own, the boy, still mourning his late mother, rejected her kindness. Tesfaye, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s with a thick beard and solemn eyes, struggled to balance his grief and new marriage. He often withdrew, leaving Mibret feeling isolated. No matter how much she tried to bond with Dawit, he remained distant, his small face set in a scowl. The tension grew, and the house that should have been filled with love echoed with silence. Determined to heal her home, Mibret sought the village's healer, an elderly woman named Whisker. Bent with age but sharp-eyed, Adinek listened to Mibret's plight, nodding as she stirred a steaming pot of herbs. "Love and patience alone cannot always soften a hardened heart," she murmured, lifting a wrinkled hand. "You need something more." Mibret leaned in, hope flickering in her heart. "Tell me what to do." Adinek smiled knowingly. "You must bring me a whisker from a living lion. Only then will I prepare the remedy that will heal your family." Mibret's heart pounded as she stood at the edge of the dense forest where lions were said to roam. The thought of approaching one sent shivers down her spine, but she refused to give up. With a deep breath, she carried a bowl of freshly cooked lamb and placed it near a large boulder. Then she stepped back, hiding behind a tree. A golden-maned lion emerged from the shadows, his powerful form sleek and majestic. His amber eyes glowed in the fading sunlight as he sniffed the air cautiously. Mibret held her breath as he devoured the offering, then disappeared into the darkness. This was only the beginning. Day after day, Mibret returned, always bringing food and never making a sudden move. The lion, though wary at first, began to recognize her scent. Slowly, his fierce gaze softened, and he no longer disappeared the moment she arrived. His trust was fragile, like the delicate silk threads woven into her clothing, but she nurtured it with care. After weeks of persistence, the lion allowed her to sit closer. She could see the rhythm of his breathing, the way his golden fur rippled in the wind. It was time. Holding her breath, she reached out as he feasted and, with a swift but gentle motion, plucked a single whisker from his face. The lion barely flinched. Mibret's heart swelled with triumph. Mibret rushed back to Whisker, presenting the precious whisker with trembling hands. "I have it," she exclaimed, her voice breathless with excitement. Adinek took the whisker, examining it with an approving nod. Then, to Mibret's shock, she tossed it into the fire. Mibret gasped. "Why did you do that?" Adinek chuckled. "The magic was never in the whisker, my dear. The patience, love, and courage you showed to the lion, you must now show to your family. That is the true remedy." Mibret left the healer's home with a newfound understanding. That evening, instead of forcing conversation with Dawit, she simply sat near him as he played with stones outside. She did the same for days, never pressuring him, just being present. Little by little, he stopped stiffening at her presence. One evening, as she handed him a bowl of stew, he hesitated before taking it. "Thank you," he mumbled. It was the first time he had spoken to her without bitterness. The walls between them were beginning to Tesfaye watched these changes with quiet curiosity. He had been distant, avoiding conflict, but now he saw Mibret's patience at work. For the first time in months, he sat beside her after dinner. "You never gave up," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. She met his gaze, her deep eyes filled with warmth. "Love is not just about words. It is shown through patience." He took her hand, and in that moment, the unspoken pain between them began to ease. One afternoon, Dowit approached Mibret, clutching a small wooden lion he had carved. "It's for you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mibret's heart swelled as she took the figurine, her fingers tracing its careful details. "Did you make this?" she asked. Dowit nodded. "You are brave, like a lion." Tears pricked her eyes, but she only smiled, hugging the small carving to her chest. Laughter returned to their home. Tesfaye no longer withdrew, and Dowit spoke freely with Mibret. The warmth that had once been absent now filled their small house like the glow of the Ethiopian sunrise. One evening, as Mibret told Dowit a bedtime story, he curled up beside her, resting his head against her arm. She stroked his hair gently, feeling the bond they had fought so hard to build. Mibret returned to the forest one last time, standing near the boulder where the lion often rested. When he emerged, their eyes met, and she bowed her head in silent gratitude. She no longer needed his whisker, but his lesson would stay with her forever. With patience, even the fiercest of hearts could be tamed. And with love, even the deepest wounds could heal.